You are again welcome to another presentation of English language. Today's topic is meant for Junior Secondary School 2, and the topic for discussion is informal letter, though the topic will also benefit other classes too. Now, the first thing I want us to do is to look at what we intend to achieve at the end of the lesson. First, we are going to look at what informal letter is, that is the concept itself, and the format or the feature of informal letter. In writing informal letter, what are the steps are we supposed to take? The first is the address. The second, you have the date. The third, salutation, the body, and the conclusion of subscriptions. These are what we are going to be looking at one after the other. Now, when we said informal letter, what does that imply? This is a letter we write to our families, relatives, and friends. These are letters we write to our families, relatives, and friends. Now, how do we write informal letter? These letters to our friends, to our family, how do you write them? Now, the first thing you are supposed to do is to start with the address. And the address is supposed to be on the right-hand side of your paper. Now, you're going to write your own address there. Now, for instance, you want to use your school name, Government Secondary School. For instance, how do you write the address of Government Secondary School? Now, you start by writing or starting the address on the right-hand side of the paper. And before we start, I want you to note this, that the address, you can write your address in a block form or slanting form. When you come to write your address, that is, when you say block form, it has to be on the straight line. The second line is supposed to start where the first started, the third start where the second, and so on. But when you talk of the slanting, here you have the first line, and then the second line starts from the second letter of the first line. The third one also starts from the second of the second, and so on. That is slanting form. Now, what we are going to use today is the block form. Now, we are going to use the address of Government Secondary School and see how to write our own address. Now, when you have a paper, we said your address will be on the right-hand side of the paper, the top right-hand side of the paper. That is where your address is supposed to be. Now, you start by writing the name of your school. That is, for instance, Government Secondary School, Government Secondary School, Government Secondary School. Now, what to note here in writing the name of the school is, first, you discover that the first letter of the keywords, that is government, secondary, and the school, all the first letters of these words supposed to be capitalized, are supposed to be in capital letters, and not capitalizing the whole address. No, it is wrong. So you capitalize G in government, S in secondary school, and S in a school, and then you put your comma there. Okay? Now, another thing again is then you come to the address, the number of the school. PMB will now come after the name of the school. For instance, you have PMB. Now, this is universally accepted and therefore will have to be in capital letters. The PMB will now be all in capital letters. PMB 32, then you put your comma there. It should, and the second, it should be on the second line. And they should start where the first line, the first name started, that is government day. The G started, the P should also start on the same line. Now, the third line should now be the location of the school. Government Secondary School, PMB government secondary school. School, comma. Okay. Now the second, as we have said earlier, we said it should start from where the name started, that is government, the G. Then you have PMB 32, comma, another comma, then the location of the school, which is Mina. Mina, full stop. That if the letter is going out outside the state, it is necessary that you indicate the name of the state. But if it is within, it is not necessary that you include the state. Assuming our letter is within, now we stop at Mina. Full stop there. Then the date. The date. Okay, before that, I want you also to note this, that the letter in Mina, the letter M in Mina is also capitalized. As we have said, all the keyword letters, words in the address should start with capital letters. Mina is also, M is also capitalized in the Mina. Now the date is not part of the address, it's just an entity that comes after the address. But that does not mean that when you come to write your date, you should skip or jump a line and go to the second. No. The date should come immediately after the address. For instance, we want to use 20th of May 2020. This is the date we want to use. So the 20th, now the 20 should come here immediately after the second line, the following line after Mina, 20th with your TH down. You don't put your TH up as we used to see most of the students do. Your TH should be down. And then the next is the month, May. You also capitalize the M because May is a name of a month. So it has to start with capital letter. And then after the name of the month, you put your comma there and the year. 2020, then full stop. This is your address. This is how your address, the day is supposed to be. Okay? Please always avoid dash or slash after the dates. It is not accepted, please. Don't put dash after 20th dash and then after the month dash. No, it is not accepted. This is what is generally accepted. Okay? Then after the address and the date comes the salutation. Comes salutation, and your salutation should now be on the next line after the date, but this time around on your left hand side. Now, assuming you are writing to your father, there is nothing wrong writing dear father, mother, dear mother. But if you are writing to friends, you don't write dear friends. Please, you mention the name of the friend. Dear Usman, dear James, and so on. You have to give the names, okay? You are writing to a friend, right? Dear James, comma. There should be comma after James, after the name, okay? And there is also, it is also accepted for you to write my dear father. But what to note here is that when you choose to write or put my dear, then it is the M that's supposed to be capitalized. You capitalize my M, and then dear should start with small letter. And if you are not using the name, you are using common name, then it has to start with small letters too. Dear daddy or dear mommy, then comma. Okay? Now this is accepted, but you have to notice that if you are writing, you don't capitalize all the keywords here. Only the first word, letter, the first letter of the first word, that is my, you capitalize M and so on. This is accepted. Okay? And I said when you come to write to your friends, you don't write dear friends. It is not accepted. Mention the name of the friend. Then the body. After the salutation, the name of the person you want to send the letter to, then the body. Now, in the main body, you have 3 sections in the body. The first section is the introduction. The second is the content. And then the third, conclusion in the body. Now, introduction here in the informal letter, it is expected of you to make greetings. Okay? To make greetings. And in the introduction, first, you may write, for instance, you may decide to write by greeting as follows. How are you? How are you? This is a question, so there should be question mark. How are you? How is the weather over there? How is the weather there is another question. Here, it is extremely warm here. Now you are now asking of the condition over there, and you are equally telling him at the same time the condition of the weather in your own environment. Okay, so you can make your greetings in the introduction, and then the body, the content, and then the body. Here, what is expected of you is to write directly, write all that is expected of you, but it should be linked to the topic. If you are asked to write a letter to your father complaining of your missing items, okay, you don't deviate from it. All your discussion should be focused on your missing item. Okay, though in the informal letter you may bring in topics of interest, but you shouldn't deviate from the main question or the main problem while you are writing the letter. Another thing I want you to note again in the body, contractions are used in the informal letter. It is accepted. For instance, you want to write you are. It is accepted for you to write, to contract the words, and thereby writing you are Y-O-U apostrophe then R-E, or she is. She is. Okay, you can write S-H-E apostrophe then S. These contractions are accepted in informal letter, and you will not be penalized for it because it is accepted. Okay, the language should be very okay, apostrophe then S. Okay. The language should be understood by the person you are writing the letter to and yourself. Okay, you can use any other language unlike the formal letter that you have to be very careful in choosing your words. Now, that is the body. And the body, we said, when you come to discuss whatever topic you come to discuss or problem you come to discuss in the informal letter, you should, the first paragraph should have a link with the second with the third. You don't discuss a different thing in the first paragraph without linking it with the second, now discussing another thing that is entirely out of the contents, please. Okay, and then what we need again, the next thing we need, you need to do after the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. You can conclude your lesson, by your letter, by summarizing the contents. You can conclude in the main body. You conclude by summarizing whatever you intend the reader to understand or the message you want to put across. Then the subscription, which is the last part of it. Now, how do you subscribe your the conclusion? Now, when you come to subscribe the conclusion, your conclusion, the subscription supposed to be on the right hand side, the down right hand side of your paper after the body. Now, you write, this is the only thing that is accepted. Yours sincerely, comma, or yours affectionately. Now, this is the only thing that is accepted. There is no any other body that do not recognize this, and that is why we advise most of the students to always stick to this. In some materials, you may come across a father writing, a son writing to his father, and then at the end writing your son. Well, but this is generally accepted. Yours sincerely or yours affectionately, and then comma after each. Now, one thing I want you to note again, something I want you to note here again, is after yours, there should not be apostrophe. After your, there should not be apostrophe before the S. It should be together. Yours apostrophe, and always put your S down. Don't take it up. Then sincerely, in yours, it is only Y that you are supposed to capitalize. And then sincerely, the whole of the word sincerely should be written in small letters. And after that, there should be comma. The same thing applies to the second one. You only capitalize Y in yours, and then affectionately should be written in small letters. The whole of the word affectionately should be written in small letters. Then you put your comma there. And then the last thing you do is to write your own name. It is only expected of you, because this letter is written to somebody that is very, very familiar to you, so there is no need for you to include your surname. You only write your first name. If you are James Audu, what is expected of you to do here is to just write James and a full stop. You write James and a full stop. You don't sign your name on the informal letter. You don't sign your name. You don't use your surname. You just write your first name, because it is assumed that the person you are writing to is a person that is very, very familiar to you, and he is also you are also known to him. Okay, now these are what you are supposed to do when you come to write your informal letter. Now, I want to believe that we have succeeded in discussing first, telling you or discussing what informal letter is. We say this is the letter that you write to your friends, relations, and the families. And that is why it is informal. And then the format you use in writing these letters. We say the first thing is the address, which has to be on the right hand side. The second, the date, which is supposed to come immediately after the address. The third, salutation and what is expected of you. You mention, if it is you are writing to a friend, you mention his name. You don't just write friend, okay, and so on. The body is divided into three parts. We did say that: introduction, the contents, and the introduction, the content, and the conclusion. This is what is expected of you when it comes and how to write. In the introduction, we expect you to write, to start with greetings. Then the contents in the body, what is expected of you, or whatever problem you intend to discuss, you discuss it in the body, and then you conclude your letter, the body, by summarizing the main points. And then the subscription, we have also mentioned the two types you need to be very, very familiar with. We say yours and yours sincerely and yours affectionately. This is generally accepted, and you write your name at the end. Now, for more, I want to give you an exercise or an assignment on this topic we have discussed, formal letter. I want you to write an informal letter to your parents or to your father in particular, discussing or bringing out at least 2 or 3 problems you do face in the school. Write a letter to your father. You write a letter to your father write a letter to your father telling him at least 3 challenges you do have in the school. Write a letter to your father, or your father telling him at least 3 challenges you do have in the school. For more details, you can consult, or you can check the following textbooks for more information on or details on the topic. Informal letter, the new concept English for junior secondary school 2, and or intensive English for junior secondary school 2. In case there are areas you wish we touch or discuss which we are unable to do, you can contact us on our WhatsApp number on the on 090 29282040, again 090 29282040. Thank you for listening.